The winter 2019 anime season has begun, and like every season, a few weeks ahead of time I looked through the schedule to see what was coming up. After the last few seasons where terrible descriptions made me lose out on awesome shows, I did the possibly insane task of watching the first 3 episodes of every show that's starting this season. That's a total of 24 straight hours. Now, not that insane to watch them all in a row. But because they don't all start at the same week, a couple shows are on episode 5, while another barely made it to 3 at the time of this recording. There are about 3 shows that I was planning on watching this season, and after doing this little experiment, sometimes I'd be wishing the next episode of something I was going to ignore was out right now so I could binge it, while others were unbearable trash. I'm gonna go through each show, probably focusing as much time as is bearable on each show. Also, all of these shows solidify my theory that the more unique the opening is, the better the show is. Every single one, without exception. First, one of the shows I had planned on watching, The Rising of the Shield Hero. Also, a friend of mine recommended it to me. There was no way I was getting out of watching what I think is the best show of the season. It's an isekai show, but with a twist, where there are other characters from alternate Earths that know the world as a video game and have various weapons, while our main character has a shield as his weapon, can't equip anything else, and doesn't know the world lore or generally what's going on at all. Everyone generally considers him useless, and he gets screwed over by pretty much all of society, so he's always on the brink of collapse. Each episode has a massive amount of character development, and it feels like its own little arc. So watching it week by week isn't that bad, but I want it now! The Promised Neverland flew right under my radar, along with probably everyone else who didn't read the manga, which is at like volume 12 now, so get ready for a non-ending. Here's the description that was originally on AniChart, which has since been changed to include a hint of mystery. At Gracefield House, life couldn't be better for orphans. Though they have no parents, together with the other kids and a kind mama who cares for them, they form one big happy family. No child is ever overlooked, especially since they are all adopted by the age of 12. Their daily lives involve rigorous tests, but afterwards they're allowed to play outside. Yeah, there's more to it than that. Maybe it's on me for only checking one site, but I think this is going to be the sleeper hit this season. This is another one where the plot shifts direction each episode, so I don't know where it's going next episode, let alone 10 or 20. Dora Row is a show that I was kind of iffy about, because the main character's design reminded me of early Naruto, like first 10 episodes where he's an annoying brat. But surprisingly, he's not even the main character. Hyakimaru, the demon-hunting puppet with swords for limbs, is the main character, while Dora Row is Hyakimaru's speech surrogate. Hyakimaru's father made a deal with a demon shrine to sacrifice anything. Pro tip, never say anything when you're bargaining with demons, in order to take over the world or something along those lines. Okay, I was planning on saying something about how I liked the fact that it was original and something that you don't see much of these days, before I found out right this second that it's a remake of a 1969 Tezuka show with a manga from '67. The fact that I found something remade from 50 years ago innovative really shows how stale most shows have become. In any case, it's another must-watch. Magical Girl Spec Ops Lassika is what a lot of people thought Madoka Magica was, what other shows copying it tried to be, and in general missed the point with. Spec Ops Lassika is a deconstruction of the magical girl genre, and I could argue why Madoka wasn't, but no time and not the place for that. In the first scene, the group of magical girls defeat the evil alien, and there's a time skip where Asuka is trying to live a normal high school life. A minor conflict ensues, and PTSD follows, along with gruesome torture interrogation. The other magical girls are busting Mexican drug cartels alongside the police, and it's all over the place. Once again, I have no idea where the plot's going, but it's going somewhere. To lighten up the mood, Kaguya Sama, Love is War, or to use the full title, Kaguya Sama wants to be confessed to, the genius's war of love and brains, is a series of short stories about Student Council President Shirogane, the one with the perfect grades and good looks, and Kaguya, Student Council Vice President and daughter of a massive business conglomerate that everyone knows. They like each other, but the one that admits that loses. Each episode is a series of confession traps that they try to counter each other with. It's a fun and cute show that doesn't cater to fan service and typical romance genre trappings. Domestic Girlfriend was something I knew and liked beforehand from reading the manga. The description of it is kind of random and sleazy sounding, but it's a solid romance that has actual drama instead of the usual anime tripping onto the wrong spots or the main character just not being able to spit the words out. TLDR, main character San hooks up with random girl Rui at a mixer neither of them really wanted to go to. He has a thing for his teacher that's obviously not going anywhere, and one day out of nowhere, his dad remarries and his new stepmother happens to have 2 daughters, and take a wild speculation about who they are. Boogie Pop Doesn't Laugh, aka Boogie Pop and Others, is a bit like the Monogatari series in that there's some kind of supernatural problem that needs to be solved. That's one arc. Then there's another supernatural problem that needs to be solved. This, however, is shown out of chronological order, with the problem being the focus and not the order in which things happen. It might be confusing if you can't keep track of who's doing what when, or you can just roll with it and enjoy the show. I didn't find it too confusing, but I'm the kind of guy who can figure out the chronology of Pulp Fiction as I'm watching it. I saw some forum commenters saying they didn't get it at all. This is where we get into the second tier of shows. Kemari Kusa is an odd post-apocalyptic show where a bunch of red-headed girls fight red monsters, avoid the evil red mist, and try to gather water. A boy appears literally out of nowhere and they don't think he's human. He doesn't know either. Is this an isekai show? It looks like they're on Earth and he doesn't know what's going on. The girls do all the fighting since he's useless, and I would not at all call him the main character. But he has that power of friendship type of way of inspiring everyone. This show is hard to categorize, and with its slow pace, uncertain character roles, and flat art style, it's not for everyone, but it is worth watching. The Quintessential Quintuplets is a straight-up harem show, and they make no illusions otherwise. The main character San is hired as a tutor for all 5 with their terrible grades, and he has to gain their approval in order to do his job. Despite them being quintuplets, their hair goes across the spectrum from lavender to purple, and the one-dimensional character types run from eager loli to innuendo-throwing older sister. Still, it's funny and the characters are slowly getting developed, though that's not really saying much. Ueno Sanwa Boo Kyo is a show about a lowly genius inventor girl bullying the guy she likes by making inventions with various innuendos that he completely doesn't notice. It gets a hard chuckle sometimes, but it's pretty much a one-note show. The Cost of Smiles is a show that should be really good, but for some reason isn't. Unless there's a huge plot twist involving a radical change in character, it's kind of tepid. They're trying to do too much at one time. They have the ascension of the princess who knows nothing, so her advisors are going over geopolitical intrigue with her, but she only really cares about the guy she likes, who is her childhood friend and leader of the royal guard. Then there's these pretty decent strategic mech battles that involve more than just a head-on charge, which is refreshing, but they don't mean anything because all that world building that the princess ignored was crappy olds, and I would have ignored it too. This show really needs a plot twist that makes her get in the robot or start dropping bombs or something. I need to see her with the face of despair. Next show! Girly Air Force is like the opposite of Saikano. As an experimental plane to fight off high-tech enemy planes, the Army develops planes that are psychically linked to girl pilots. I'm assuming they're all girls because that's the type of show this is. Wait, that's the name of the show! Anyway, main character San is part of a group evacuating a ship when one of the girl force planes crash lands in the water nearby. Of course, he goes to rescue her, and for some reason, he and only he can stabilize her. I'm sure there will be more fights, but so far it's been just the one. There might not be many, because this feels kinda low budget. Who knows? My Roommate is a Cat is exactly as it says on the label. The interesting twist, though, is that the first half of the episode is from the human's perspective as he does stuff around the house and the cat freaks out or does random stuff. The second half is from the cat's perspective, and he misinterprets what his owner is doing, his acting like a cat is explained as rational, and so on. It's a great way to kill 20 minutes for sure. Koyo no Kotobukiya Hukotai is a post-apocalyptic airfighting show. Unlike Girly Air Force, each episode actually has some pretty good flying. Its 3D animation is terrible though, so the non-fighting scenes are hard to watch if that bothers you. Wise is actually a sequel to Handshakers from a couple of years ago. I didn't know that going in, but I think there's a lot of returning characters. That said, I don't feel like I missed much, even as the returning characters were reminiscing. The plot. Main character San can take anyone who holds his hand to an alternate reality, though it's dangerous there and they won't remember anything afterwards. The distorted reality reminds me a bit of the more recent Persona games. The environment just cranks the cool meter up as high as it can go, which is why MC-san takes all his DJ equipment there and makes a live stream as he performs. Unfortunately, other pairs of Handshakers, people who can go there, show up for a battle royale. It's something to keep an eye on, but I don't know where the end game for this would be, and keep in mind that it's a sequel. If you've seen Handshakers, you'll probably be a lot more interested than otherwise. Now, it's time for the dumpster fire. Watashi ni tenshi ga okay. An Angel Flew to Me is about a girl probably in her mid-20s who does nothing but make cosplay clothes all day for her kid sister to wear. One day, another loli comes to play at their house and gets lured into the cosplay thing by baked goods. There's a funny part here and there, but if the genders were reversed, it'd be police time. Grimm's notes the animation is based on a mobile game. A lot of these have popped up lately, and they all feel like they have a plot dump, then a combat animation, then a return to... The story is interesting in theory. It's set in the land of all the fairy tales, and everyone has a book of fate. In it are pre-written stories about what happens, unless something evil is at work. Andro takes an interesting concept and turns it into a gag slice-of-life story. The Demon King is about to be defeated by the Hero of Destiny and her elite party, except that the final move sends the Demon King back in time and turns him into a loli instead of the defeat they were hoping for. She goes into places the hero's teacher, planning on making them fail, and somehow she ends up taking the legendary hero sword earlier. Because none of them are anywhere near their full potential, they have to have a series of comedy routines until they're older. This is another show that's not really worth watching, but if you have 20 minutes to kill, an episode here and there is enjoyable. Pastel Memories is just weird. In a theoretical world where anime and manga have all but disappeared, an assortment of girls run a maid-like cafe with scattered volumes of random series to read. During the night, they fight viruses that remove an anime or manga from existence by going into that world, vaguely remembering it because they're huge nerds, and seeing something wrong with it, usually an untranslatable pun that's lost outside of Japan. The fights aren't great, and neither is the story, though the concept took me by surprise as a cliffhanger at the end of the first episode. I think it would have worked better as a mystery genre thing, rather than yet another unironic magical girl show. Bermuda Triangle Colorful Pastoral is the typical drek that made this experiment so painful to do. There are mermaids, and they do mermaid things. Unless you like mermaids, it's really not worth watching. Circlet Princess is something I really need to see more of to judge. The first episode had a really good fight scene, followed by a boring let's form a club plot. By episode 3, they technically still haven't formed the club, curse you tsundere. and only one of the 3 fights in that episode was worth watching. So far it's not looking too good, especially since it was also based on a browser game, but maybe one more episode can show whether it's going to be about battles or club rooms. There you have it, the good, the bad, and the ones you need the police for if it happened in real life. If I missed a show, leave a comment, or if I'm just horribly wrong and the thing you like is better than mine, leave a like if you appreciate the fact that I did this for you so you don't have to, and subscribe for future seasons as well. Until then, I'll see you next time.